What's up, everybody? So we are back with the About the Fans post-game show. Miami just beat Bethune Cookman 48-7. I'm Jordan. Got Petrie with me as always. Uh, that's right, man. It's all about that you, Petrie. How you doing?
Dude, I'm doing very good. I'm happy to be doing this with you as always. A bit of a more casual, easygoing game tonight for fans and for us both. I'm sure some people are watching the NFL game as I do have it in my background over there. Some people might have
Yeah.
even turned it off a little bit early. But other than that, an exciting game for the offense, scoring a good amount of points, and also an exciting game for the defense, really holding them to zero almost all the way to the end.
Yeah. Yeah, and we wanted to keep it brief tonight. Just gonna kind of give the overview, things that jumped out to us, and then we'll probably call it after 5 to 10 minutes. But so let's just go down the list. One thing that surprised me, I was helping my cousin make some prop bets on the Canes game, and I told him that the total over of 61 points sounded pretty good. Pulling Tyler Van Dyke at halftime made me look like an idiot to my cousin. So I don't blame the Canes for pulling Tyler at halftime. It's not like he needed to be in the second half at all. But yeah, we couldn't really get much going in the second half on offense.
Yeah, I personally speaking, I mean, the spread was 52 and a half. I think it might have even been 53 and a half right as the game opened, but we won by 41 points, which is obviously convincing. Um, I just don't think that when they made the lines, they were not really considering the fact that we were going to run the ball as much as we did. We controlled the clock, nothing too insane, and to be quite honest with you, I wasn't surprised with the fact that we didn't cover and the over/under didn't hit. I wasn't terribly surprised.
Yeah. Well, I told him,
I didn't gamble on it, but I have a take before the game started that confirms what I'm saying. So,
yeah, I didn't love the 50. I think my cousin was thinking about buying it up to 55 points. Didn't love that. But I was telling him, I'm like, usually they keep the starter in, till around end of the third quarter. I was kind of banking on that. Probably would have hit the over and, the covered the spread and hit the over if Van Dyke plays an extra quarter. But, smart team decision. I'm glad Van Dyke didn't play the third quarter because we got to see Emory Williams for a whole half.
and that's what's really important to go into what we were saying to transition from gambling to actual, like football analyses, right? It makes sense that they would get Emory Williams in when they did. They're not going to bring out Tyler Van Dyke to push this thing to 40 points. They're feeling comfortable about the win. Van Dyke's had enough snaps. He's got his reps. As a matter of fact, he did a couple of Tyler Vic Dyke moves a little bit early and got hit once or twice, which I'm sure the coaching staff wasn't too happy about. So they're thinking, listen, we're going to have to burn one of these games on Emory Williams anyway. Why are we going to get him in halfway through the third quarter or near the start of the fourth quarter when we could just give him the whole entire half to work with? We got to burn one of his red shirt games anyway. So let him play a whole half.
Yeah. Do you think they do try to redshirt him this year, or do you think he's just quarterback 2 and they're going to burn his freshman season on being the backup?
Dawson did mention that there's a plan. Like I don't remember the exact quote, so I'm not going to have the words right on this, but he had a presser after the A&M game saying that he's got an idea, a general plan of what to do with these red shirts, whether it's Jakari Brown or Emory Williams. Now, obviously, Emory's played in 2, so that's 2 of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Once we really get into the thick of it with ACC play and coming down the stretch at the end of the season, I have a feeling that Van Dyke's going to be in until the end of the fourth quarter most of those games. Yep. So when he says he has a plan, I mean, are we going to see Emory Williams? Maybe if we get, I'm not going to say get lucky. Maybe if we end up going up big on a team and he tries to get him another third game. But somebody made a very interesting point. What happens if the Canes end up making a bowl game and need that red shirt for him in the event that Van Dyke decides not to play before going pro? If the Canes go at this current pace and Van Dyke continues to perform at the current pace, he's going to be looking at first-round draft pick status. And I'd love to say that our Canes guys play just because they love the U, just like all the fans would like to hear. But Tyler Van Dyke's going to be looking down the barrel of a $50 million decision, and he might not play that bowl game. Then we need Emory Williams or Jakari Brown.
Especially if we're like looking at the Cheez-It Bowl or something, and Tyler Van Dyke is a consensus first rounder, like I really wouldn't fault the kid for making a business decision there. So that's a good point. It makes me wonder if the plan isn't, we will burn the use up the 4 games for Emory Williams early in the season, when we have Bethune Cookman and Temple and can't even remember who we played week 1, Miami, Ohio.
Should have been an easy one.
Yep. Yeah, right. And then, and then transition into Jakari Brown as quarterback 2 during the ACC schedule, to fill in as needed, give him his 4 games. And then, like you said, probably a lot of these games, we won't even need a quarterback 2 to come in. Yeah. So, I bet between using 4 games for each guy, I bet that we could get to the end of the season without preventing a red shirt for either of our backup quarterbacks.
Yeah, and I would agree. I was happy with how Emory did. It's hard to really say anything tremendous about it, obviously, it being against Bethune-Cookman. And his stat sheet was nice. He had a little bit over 9 yards per attempt and obviously no turnovers. It was only 11 passes. In the entire second half, they really tried to run the ball, which goes back to what we were saying earlier about how I'm not surprised they didn't cover. I mean, in the second half, you only throw the ball 11 times. Obviously, you're really not trying to push it down the field.
Yeah.
So he played clean, but that, and he's got accuracy. I like the throws, but he's got to get some arm strength. He's only a true freshman, so we'll give him time, but come on.
Yeah, I agree with you. And this is, I'm not going to push this onto anyone else. I said it on here, after Van Dyke seemed to struggle a little bit against Miami of Ohio, and then Emory Williams came in, was throwing darts in relief of Van Dyke. I said that, perhaps we see Williams get a little bit of burn this year if Van Dyke does not revert to 2021 form. Obviously he has. But, his box score looks good. That's a good point. But Williams, the eye test for Emory Williams just
KJ Osborne just scored a touchdown. Pro Canes.
There we go. There we go.
Didn't want to get right in the middle of you, but yes.
You're good. But the eye test for Emory Williams left a little bit to be desired, and I'm not holding that against him. True freshman, especially the position of quarterback, that is to be expected. I think it's just a good reminder that we are pretty reliant on Tyler Van Dyke for success this year.
Yeah.
So,
do you think anything of it that Jakari hasn't gotten any of these snaps? Do you think anything of that?
Well, I mean, that's why I brought that up earlier. Is I wonder
because in ACC play, you wonder, are we going to need a more physical, athletic kind of style quarterback? ACC play tends to be kind of speedy and fast. So, do we need a more athletic and mobile style quarterback than Emory Williams, who's going to kind of try to dice you up from the pocket?
Yeah, I think when we get into the Georgia Tech and North Carolina and Clemson part of the schedule, I think it'll be very telling who quarterback 2 is. And we might not even see a second quarterback in those games. But, with Coach Dawson saying there's a plan, makes me wonder if Jakari Brown isn't actually quarterback 2, and they're just trying to utilize these cupcake games at the beginning of the schedule to get Emory Williams some much-needed experience. So
yeah, and definitely much needed for sure.
I think we'll have that answer when we're in the thick of ACC play, but it is definitely something to keep an eye on because I can't imagine Jakari Brown sticking around to be quarterback 3 on this team.
Another year into the future, assuming Emory maybe takes a step that seems like it has potential. I mean, he's got to get another year smarter, another year stronger, these attributes. But like you said, I don't think Jakari's sticking around for year 3 of not really seeing the field.
Yeah. Well, let's dig a little deeper into the depth chart. You mentioned it before we jumped on, Don Chaney, 10 yards per carry. Love to see that, man. Chaney just showcased so much talent early in his Canes career. Kind of has had the injury bug since, so you love to see him have a nice game tonight. Was there anything else that jumped out to you from the box score?
Well, Chaney also getting that touchdown was really nice. He's very, very physically strong, but what I was impressed with as well is his footwork. We know that he's going to be physically more of a power back, but it's also nice when he has those little finesse moves, little side steps to kind of try to get that extra little yard and a half, maybe even 2 yards. So Chaney was very good on that. Another gem from Restrepo, not a touchdown from Xavier Restrepo, but 20 yards per carry. I mean, if somebody gets 20 yards per catch, you're getting 20 yards per catch, you're doing something right. That's twice a first down every time you make contact with the football. Hello.
Yep. And, also Chris Johnson Jr. He was hyped up, only a 3-star recruit, but he was kind of hyped up as one of the fastest players in the 2023 class. His touchdown run made me a believer in that speed. Was a blur across the television.
It's really hard, and a lot of people always say you got to watch the film, and I like to watch the film, but you just don't know when, someone from, let's say, Coconut Creek High School, we're not even talking about big time South Florida football, and yeah, they look faster than everybody else. You kind of wonder, okay, are they just the supreme athlete? But once they get to the next level, everybody's the supreme athlete, right? So I was wondering if he was really going to be able to show off that speed and burn the guy on the outside, and he skirted right past him like it was nothing to it, man.
Yeah, he looked good. So
I was really impressed with him, man.
Yeah.
Parrish, another solid. I know Bethune is not exactly a world beater. Parrish went over 7 yards per carry again, and anytime you got a running back in north of 7 yards per carry, you got to look at that. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah. So I have a question for you. I hate to put you on the spot on the air. I just haven't noticed in our first 2 games. Do you know, has Skinner been starting at tight end for the last 2 games?
Skinner has not been starting. I did happen to peruse the box score after the game and saw his name tied to 1 catch for 9 yards. I've seen a couple of things on the timeline where some people are saying hey, this kind of system is not necessarily friendly for receiving tight ends. I don't know how much credence there is to that, but it could also be the fact that, when Skinner came out of high school, he was relatively skinny for a tight end. He was, thick for a wide receiver, but skinny for a tight end.
Actually, I noticed that when he caught his pass, I was thinking, man, he's kind of skinny for a tight end.
And so somebody else suggested that he's not getting a lot of passes because he needs to get his weight up.
Interesting.
And that's not really uncommon. I'm just saying the modern game, a tight end does need to be a receiving threat, but a tight end certainly needs to be able to block for running backs coming out of the backfield or just to buy extra time for the quarterback for a receiver going deep. So a tight end does need to be able to block, and he's got very good footwork and good hand skills, but he does need to be able to block. And he was a freshman, a true freshman last year. And so let's not forget, we're not talking about some kid who's been in a genuine strength and weightlifting program for 3 or 4 years. We're talking about a kid who was playing high school ball the year before last. We're not expecting him to be a tank right here, right now.
Yeah, so I'm just looking at the box scores. Not a lot of tight end action in our past game so far. So I'm honestly not even sure who our starting tight end is.
McCormick, dude. McCormick. I mean,
Has he been starting?
that's who I feel that I've seen on the field a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And he is the biggest overall physical tight end of the ones in the room. So
yeah, he had the one reception for 20 yards against A&M, but we really just haven't thrown the ball to our tight end. So I think that assessment on the timeline might be accurate, but we'll see going forward.
The only other one that I had is I'm always going to shout out Borogalis. He didn't have any field goals tonight, which is actually kind of a nice thing if you're a team. I know you obviously want your kicker to be able to ice field goals, but it's a great game if your kicker doesn't even have to attempt one. He was 5 for 6 on PATs, which is a very good percentage, even if he had genuinely missed that one. And he didn't. It wasn't a genuine miss. It was a block at the line of scrimmage. So it's not like, he shanked one or didn't know how to be a kicker. That was on the money. Unfortunately, got tipped at the line of scrimmage, and that was that. Reuben Bain, he had a sack, and they didn't really run him a whole lot, but he had a couple of those presence plays early. The ones where he's back there and he didn't get the quarterback, but the quarterback was certainly feeling the fact that he was back there.
Yep. And Jacob Lichtenstein was heard his name multiple times tonight. So
sack too.
Yep, and fumble recovery as well. So yeah, I mean that pretty much covers it. My thoughts for the evening. We're against Temple next week, so kind of expecting a similar, maybe 30-ish point win. Hopefully, I don't look like a dork for saying that in 10 days. But, I mean, I don't know what the spread's going to be, but you have to imagine it's 3+ scores, right?
Yeah, and I would feel confident with it being a 3+ score spread as well. The receivers are looking kind of nice on the outside. If we want to get creative on offense and try to see what we're doing before we really kind of try to get into the thick of the schedule, I think the warm-up games are relatively over. Not that A&M was a warm-up game, but after Temple, the warm-up, tune-up games are kind of over. And I'm looking for Jacoby George to have a very strong finish to the season as well. He's looked very good so far. I don't want to say anything too crazy, but didn't he look like Devonta Smith a little bit on that touchdown? The way he jumped off the line as soon as he caught that on the screen and burst forward, it kind of looked like Devonta Smith there.
Yeah. No, I don't think you are crazy. We've been talking for probably 3 years now about how the wide receiver room just needed a lot of help. And it finally feels like this season we have at least 3 dudes that feel like they are legitimate Power 5 starting wide receivers. When you go with Colby Young, Xavier Restrepo, Jacoby George. So it finally feels like
don't mention Colby Young, man. The bettors are upset at Colby Young, man, giving up that touchdown.
Yep. But doesn't it just feel like we finally have a trio of dudes in the starting the first group that like actually belong on the field for a program like Miami.
Yeah. And that's a good way to put it because, a lot of people are sitting there going, well, this guy's no Michael Irvin. Well, this guy's no Reggie Wayne. Well, guess what? Not everybody who walks into your program is going to be an NFL Hall of Famer. I'm sorry to tell you, in case some of these Canes fans don't realize it, you want it to be the you, but guess what? Not every single kid is going to be an NFL Hall of Famer. But to your point, having multiple guys and with different skill sets, Colby Young, a little bit more of a physically strong kind of runner. Jacoby George, a little bit more finesse. And then you've got Restrepo being a little bit more twitchy, those kind of short bursts, but those short bursts turn into 20 yards per catch, right? So very happy with how it turned out. We didn't really have a lot of notes. We didn't, you know what I mean? Like I was sitting there and I was going, okay, what can we talk about? I was like, I need to know which freshmen are going to play well. How'd we do on injuries? We did okay. We did fine on injuries. And then how is Borogalis and the other shout outs? What else can you really talk about? It was a very good win. I know they didn't cover. Good teams win, great teams cover. But that was a very, very nice win. I don't care about a garbage time touchdown. Let them have that 7.
Yep, I agree. My final thought would be I'm glad that after a big emotional win last week with Texas A&M, the first team came out and looked disciplined, handled business, offense and defense.
Yes, and they didn't. Yeah, like you said, they didn't come out deflated and flat. That was terrific to come out with a purpose and not be, kind of let down by the fact that you saw. I know we talk about the attendance stuff with Miami. That humongous turnout on Saturday, then to turn it into a far lesser opponent than A&M on a far lesser day of the week, such as Thursday. People have things to do. And they saw that the crowd was not overwhelming and still didn't play like a bunch of lazy bums, unlike other recent Miami teams where they come out after a big win, they see no fans out there and they go, well, nobody's here to film me for Instagram, and so I'm going to play like a gigantic pussy the whole game.
Yeah.
Anyway, got some football players on the roster.
Exactly. And, honestly, I think that's because we have a football coach on the sideline.
Terrific. Yeah, not some Instagram princess like Manny Diaz.
Yeah, Manny, man, he's good at marketing. I'll give him that. He can sell some tickets, but not a lot of pop behind that sizzle, Or maybe I switched that around. But yeah, not a lot of substance behind the style for Manny Diaz. So feels nice to have a football coach who doesn't really care about style and just cares about, discipline and winning football games. So
yeah.
All righty, man. Any closing thoughts, or are you good to go?
No, I'm good to go. It was nice to talk shit about Manny Diaz towards the end there.
I know, I loved it. I saw a projection for us to play Penn State in the Orange Bowl. That'd be kind of fun.
I saw that one as well. I put a tweet out. I was like, I hope that Dawson takes that one personally. We need to send a message if we play Penn State in the Orange Bowl. Hello. Yeah. If we play Penn State in the Orange Bowl, dial them up. I want to go downtown.
Yep. Love it.
How was your 30th, brother? You have a good time?
Yeah. Birthday was good. Good. I'm a pretty low-key guy. So, just went out to a nice dinner, asked my wife to let me watch some football and just take it easy last weekend. And that's what we did. So it was good.
The rest was history.
Yes, sir. So looking forward to this decade. We'll see how it goes.
There you go. All right, brother. Hey, man, it's been a great time as always.
Yep. Thank you for jumping in. Thank you for anyone that watched tonight. Until next week, let's go Canes.
Go Canes.
Okay. Take care, guys.